Vayikra, or Leviticus 22 through 23. And Yahweh spoke to Moshe, saying, Speak to Aaron and his sons that they separate themselves from the set-apart offerings of the children of Israel, that they do not profane my set-apart name in what they set apart to me. I am Yahweh. Say to them, Any man of all your offspring throughout your generations who draws near the set-apart offerings which the children of Israel set apart to Yahweh, while he has uncleanness upon him, that being shall be cut off from me. I am Yahweh. Any man of the offspring of Aaron who is a leper or has a discharge does not eat the set-apart offerings until he's clean. And whoever touches what is rendered unclean by a being or a man who has had an emission of semen, or a man who touches any swarming creature by which he would be made unclean, or any being by whom he would become unclean, even any of his uncleanness, the being who's touched it shall be unclean until evening, and does not eat the set-apart offerings, but shall bathe his body in water. And when the sun goes down, he shall be clean, and afterward eat the set-apart offerings, because it's his food. He does not eat that which dies or is torn by beasts, becoming unclean by it. I am Yahweh. And they shall guard my charge, lest they bear sin for it and die thereby when they profane it. I, Yahweh, set them apart. And no stranger eats the set-apart offering. A settler with the priest or a hired servant does not eat the set-apart offering. But when the priest buys a being with his silver, he does eat of it, and one who is born in his house does eat his food. And when a priest's daughter is married to a stranger, she does not eat of the set-apart offerings. But when a priest's daughter is a widow or put away and has no child and has returned to her father's house as in her youth, she does eat her father's food, but no stranger eats of it. And when a man eats the set-apart offering by mistake, then he shall give a set-apart offering to the priest and add 1/5 to it. And let the priests not profane the set-apart offerings of the children of Israel when they lift up to Yahweh, or allow them to bear the crookedness of trespass when they eat their set-apart offerings. For I am Yahweh, who sets them apart. And Yahweh spoke to Moshe, saying, Speak to Aaron and his sons and to all the children of Israel, and say to them, Any man of the house of Israel or of the sojourners in Israel who brings his offering for any of the vows or for any of his voluntary offerings which they bring to Yahweh as an ascending offering, for your acceptance is a male, a perfect one from the cattle, from the sheep or from the goats. Whatever has a defect you do not bring, for it's not acceptable for you. And when a man brings a slaughtering of peace offerings to Yahweh to complete a vow, or a voluntary offering from the cattle or the sheep, it is to be perfect, to be accepted. Let there be no defect in it. Those blind or broken out, or cut, or having an ulcer, or eczema, or scabs, you don't bring it to Yahweh, nor make an offering by fire of them on the slaughter place to Yahweh. As for a bull or a lamb that has any limb deformed or dwarfed, you do prepare as a voluntary offering, but for a vow, it's not accepted. Do not bring to Yahovah what is bruised or crushed or torn or cut, nor do it in your land. And from a son of a foreigner's hand you do not bring any of these as the bread of your Elohim, for their corruption is in them, and defects are in them. They're not acceptable for you. And Yahovah spoke to Moshe, saying, when a bull or a sheep or a goat is born, it shall be 7 days with its mother, and from the 8th day and thereafter it is acceptable as an offering made by fire to Yahovah. But do not slay a cow or a sheep and its young on the same day. And when you slaughter a slaughtering of thanksgiving to Yahovah, slaughter it for your acceptance. It's eaten that same day. Leave none of it until morning. I am Yahovah. And you shall guard my commandments and do them. I am Yahovah. And do not profane my set-apart name. And I shall be set apart among the children of Israel. I am Yahovah, who sets you apart, who brought you out of the land of Mitzrayim to be your Elohim. I am Yahovah. Chapter 23. And Yahovah spoke to Moshe, saying, speak to the children of Israel and say to them, the appointed times of Yahovah, which you are to proclaim as set-apart gatherings. My appointed times are these. 6 days work is done, but the 7th day is a Sabbath of rest, a set-apart gathering. You do no work, it's a Sabbath to Yahovah in all your dwellings. These are the appointed times of Yahovah, set-apart gatherings in which you are to proclaim at their appointed times. In the first new moon, on the 14th day of the new moon, between the evenings, is the Pesach to Yahovah. And on the 15th day of this new moon is the festival of the matzah to Yahovah. 7 days you eat unleavened bread. On the first day you have a set-apart gathering, you do no servile work, and you shall bring an offering made by fire to Yahovah for 7 days. On the 7th day is a set-apart gathering, you do no servile work. And Yahovah spoke to Moshe, saying, speak to the children of Israel, and you shall say to them, when you come into the land which I give you, and shall reap its harvest, then you shall bring a sheaf of the first fruits of your harvest to the priest, and he shall wave the sheaf before Yahovah for your acceptance. On the morrow after the Sabbath, the priest waves it. And on that day, when you wave the sheaf, you shall prepare a male lamb, a year old, a perfect one, as an ascending offering to Yahovah, and its grain offering, 2/10 of an ephah of fine flour mixed with oil, an offering made by fire to Yahovah, a sweet fragrance, and its drink offering, 1/4 of a hin of wine. And you do not eat bread or roasted grain or fresh grain until the same day that you've brought an offering to your Elohim. A law forever throughout your generations in all your dwellings. And from the morrow after the Sabbath, from the day that you brought the sheaf of the wave offering, you shall count for yourselves 7 complete Sabbaths, until the morrow after the 7th Sabbath you count 50 days. Then you shall bring a new grain offering to Yahovah. Bring from your dwellings for a wave offering 2 loaves of bread of 2/10 of an ephah of fine flour. They are baked with leaven, first fruits to Yahovah. And besides the bread, you shall bring 7 lambs a year old, perfect ones, and 1 young bull and 2 rams. They are an ascending offering to Yahovah with their grain offering and their drink offering as an offering made by fire for a sweet fragrance to Yahovah. And you shall offer 1 male goat as a sin offering and 2 male lambs a year old as a slaughter of peace offerings. And the priest shall wave them beside the bread of the first fruits as a wave offering before Yahovah, besides the 2 lambs. They're set apart to Yahovah for the priest. And on this same day you shall proclaim a set-apart gathering for yourselves. You do no servile work in it, a law forever in all your dwellings throughout your generations. And when you reap the harvest of your land, do not completely reap the corners of your field when you reap, and do not gather any gleaning from your harvest. Leave them for the poor and for the sojourner. I am Yahovah your Elohim. And Yahovah spoke to Moshe, saying, Speak to the children of Israel, saying, In the 7th new moon, on the 1st day of the new moon, you have a rest, a remembrance of the teruah, a set-apart gathering. You do no servile work, and you shall bring an offering made by fire to Yahovah. And Yahovah spoke to Moshe, saying, On the 10th day of this 7th new moon is Yom HaKippurim. It shall be a set-apart gathering for you, and you shall afflict your beings, and shall bring an offering made by fire to Yahovah, and you do no work on that same day, for it is Yom Kippurim, to make atonement for you before Yahovah your Elohim. For any being who's not afflicted on that same day, he shall be cut off from his people, and any being who does any work on the same day, that being I shall destroy from the midst of his people. You do no work, a law forever throughout your generations in all your dwellings. It is a Sabbath of rest to you, and you shall afflict your beings. On the 9th day of the new moon at evening, from evening to evening, you observe your Sabbath. And Yahovah spoke to Moshe, saying, Speak to the children of Israel, saying, On the 15th day of this 7th new moon is the festival of Sukkot for 7 days to Yahovah. On the 1st day is a set-apart gathering. You do no servile work. For 7 days you bring an offering made by fire to Yahovah. On the 8th day there shall be a set-apart gathering for you, and you shall bring an offering made by fire to Yahovah. It's a closing festival. You do no servile work. These are the appointed times of Yahovah, which you proclaim as set-apart gatherings, to bring an offering made by fire to Yahovah, an ascending offering and a grain offering, a slaughtering and drink offering, as commanded for every day. Besides the Sabbaths of Yahovah, and besides your gifts, and besides all your vows, and besides all your voluntary offerings which you give to Yahovah. On the 15th day of the 7th new moon, when you gather in the fruit of the land, celebrate the festival of Yahovah for 7 days. On the 1st day is a rest, on the 8th day is a rest. And you shall take for yourselves on the 1st day the fruit of good trees, branches of palm trees, twigs of leafy trees, and willows of the stream, and shall rejoice before Yahovah your Elohim for 7 days. And you shall celebrate it as a festival to Yahovah for 7 days in the year, a law forever in your generations. Celebrate it in the 7th new moon. Dwell in booths for 7 days. All who are native born in Israel dwell in booths, so that your generations know that I made the children of Israel dwell in booths when I brought them out of the land of Mitzrayim. I am Yahovah your Elohim. Thus did Moshe speak of the appointed times of Yahovah to the children of Israel.